many folks on the call probably, and this is something that we see frequently at Lawtrades, it's the need of, a sole GC that doesn't quite know what legal ops is, and conceptualizing what these roles are, distinguishing from each other. How are you guys modeling, say your legal ops people? Is that somebody that you prefer have a JD out of the gate, or are these non-JD professionals, legal professionals? We see both on our platform, some of our legal talent, especially in the legal ops world, which is very hot right now, right? Many of them are former attorneys, but we have rock star, non-JD talent as well. Do you have a preference when you're setting up shop, particularly in the ops side, Trina?
My preference is non-JD professionals typically. So we're usually, depending on the makeup, so I've got about 8 people on my team. So depending on like the maturity of your legal ops team and your legal team more generally, in order to make sure, like having one person doing everything, if you're in a smaller business or smaller legal team, might make sense. If you have a larger business, larger legal team, you may need others. So what we've found is, because we have very formalized processes as far as like how we get things done, right? We've got a whole portfolio team that we have to submit to, and then it goes to our executive leadership team. And so we've got this whole, bureaucracy built around how we get things done. But when we're thinking about how we actually get the work done, we need people that understand development. We need people that understand analytics. We need people that understand, how to project manage. So it's a different set of skills than what I would typically need from an attorney. So we have never at any time, not that we would exclude if someone was taking a different path, but the types of people that we're looking for would not generally be a JD professional.
Right. And Eric?
Yeah, it's a tough question. I think I myself am a JD, but like I would say I spend probably 75% of my day on legal ops, right? Try not to practice law as much as I can throughout the day, right? And try to figure out how we can do things better, faster, smarter, right? That's where my passion lies, not in evaluating whether or not I'm okay with, North Carolina governing law versus Delaware on a particular contract. So to me, I hope to automate myself out of a job someday, right? So in a lot of ways, I try to instill that in everyone on our legal team. Like, your job is also, like, everyone has a hand in legal operations, whether or not you're an attorney or not. You need to identify the pain points in your job so that we can come help you figure out how to solve for those, right? And I think over the years, the teams that I've worked with have done that. And then I think you see a lot of reward on the back end. But I'm definitely open to both. I definitely see the value in having folks that have much more of kind of a biz ops background and have done that for years. But I also see the value in having lawyers come at it knowing how they've approached things and where things have gone wrong, and figuring out how to get lawyers to adopt the legal ops that the legal ops folks are trying to put in place. So I think it's really important to try to bridge the two and make sure that you're doing a really great job of, because I think when you talk about, a lot of the questions have been, how do you get support from management and CEOs to take on legal ops? But I think you've also, a really important part is you've got to get your legal team to do it, right? And they've got to be all in on legal ops. And I think that's a really challenging piece of it as well. And so you've got to get adoption from within. You've got to get adoption from the top of the organization. You've also got to drive adoption around the other business units in the organization. And those are, in a lot of ways, 3 different challenges. And so I think having folks with very diverse kind of backgrounds and views is helpful.
Yeah. And Kelsey, anything to add there?
No, I completely agree. I think when addressing any sort of legal ops issue, we tend to default, and it's just because of the way the workflow comes in here at NASCAR, but we do default to our non-JD roles to help us problem solve a lot of those legal ops issues. But bridging that with communication from the attorneys and how do we make sure that any sort of new implementation that we're doing, the attorneys are excited about and want to use it so that it actually does create the inefficiency or the efficiency that it's meant to solve. That's super important. And that's why, any sort of legal operations project, we at least have one attorney on that project team. But for the most part, it's built out of our non-JD roles.
Mm-hmm. So then I kind of want to talk about the roles, these not just ops, there's paralegals, there's, contract implementation, all sorts of stuff. If you could choose one, if you were a sole GC and you had to choose one, what would that be and why? I know that's really hard, and hopefully nobody on your team is watching. Kelsey, but is there, if you kind of took a step back from these like fantastic teams that you guys have built out, and you kind of had to choose that person in that specific role, what would that be? Are you going with a paralegal, or outside of that, are you thinking about somebody more from like that eagle eye operational lens?
Yeah, I think it's difficult to answer because so much of our team is just rooted in cross training and being the dynamic player. So although the titles may be different throughout our legal department, each one of our paralegals is a contract specialist, is a legal ops person. And so they all kind of work in different roles on a day-to-day basis. They're all managing contracts. They're all helping, support litigation efforts. They're all a part of our legal ops team. And so, whether or not there's a specific title that I would hire, I don't know that there is. I would really be looking to that dynamic legal professional as a major player, and no matter the size of a legal department that I was on.
Right. Trina, I see you nodding your head.
I totally agree with Kelsey. I mean, picking just one would be a challenge for sure. If I really, really was forced to, and if we took like a legal ops professional outside of the that scope, and we were focusing on something that we would need, I would probably focus on a contracts professional, just because of the volume of contracts that we have. But it would be really hard because I think that if you had to settle on one person, you would need someone, to Kelsey's point, that was incredibly dynamic and could, provide support in a number of different capacities. So like I that would be very challenging, and I'm really glad I don't have to make that decision.
And Eric, what about you?
Yeah, I echo the exact same sentiments. It's a really tough decision. I actually made an interesting decision when joining Archer. So we posted our first hire to hire a head of legal ops. That was our first hire that we were trying to hire at Archer after I joined. And then, I decided, I was like, you know what? I don't want to hire a head of legal ops. I want to be the head of legal ops. And decided instead we'd hire other attorneys, and that I would focus my day-to-day on all of the legal ops stuff. And we'll build additional folks on the team. But so I've been building out, did all the build out of the contract management system, right? Been importing all of our legacy contracts, standing up our e-billing tool. So doing all of that. So I know one of the questions came in about what roles a non-JD can play in one lawyer legal department. You need someone that can do all those things, right? I mean, last week we imported 15,000 legacy contracts into our system, right? All of those things that need to get done from an operations perspective that allow you to operate way more efficiently going forward, but that you may not have the time in your day as a small legal department to do. I think the problem is you're oftentimes drinking from a fire hose, trying to respond to the daily barrage of requests that you get and things that need to get done. You don't have the time to step back and say, okay, how would we rebuild this, right? So I try to block a lot of my day off from the work that I do to support the business, and really trying to figure out how to move forward all the projects we're doing on the legal ops side. So I block almost half of every one of my day, whether it's build a new workflow on our contract management system. Last week we were going to one of our new open trading windows. I was looking at how much time it was taking us to approve our employees around the company, to approve them to be able to trade in our stock in an open trading window. It was taking about 15 to 20 minutes per request. And so instead we built a new workflow that we could do within our one of our systems that allowed us to do it in like 2 clicks, right? So spending time to do those things. So whether or not it's you or your team, you gotta make sure it's priority.